A video game series that needs no introduction, but ironically has part of its hype factor based on the various introductions it's provided over the years. With every release, a new generation was born. You got the oldie but goodie, the cult classic, the one that was confused but had the spirit, and the era ender. Even though these games all have definitive fan bases, they all converge together to create one of the biggest fighting game communities ever. Mostly because it's one of the biggest video game communities ever, due to the huge amount of first and third party reps lucky enough to get an invitation to this once in a lifetime event. Fans of franchises and staples from all over have been welcomed under the Smash umbrella, birthing players old and new to become followers of stories they would never have heard of otherwise. Hate it or love it, Smash Bros is a series of legend, breaking down walls and boundaries in ways no other game company could even dream of achieving. Until Fortnite came out, that is. Taking its rightful place as an industry-wide phenomenon to be remembered for years to come in the pages of gaming's history. Now, you might have noticed that in my listing I left out one game in the series, or you probably haven't, which would make sense since this is the one entry the Smash community wanted to forget about the most, even more so than Smash 4, and that entry is Super Smash Bros. Brawl, the Wii's hat throw into the Worlds Collide giant. Even though Brawl was the first game to open up the Smash universe to third-party characters, its relevance dissipated over the years. At first, it was vehemently hated upon by the community for its abrupt switch-up in gameplay aspects compared to that of Melee. There was a bigger emphasis on weight, the air felt floatier, combos were frowned upon as hits done was cancelable, a contender for most broken character in a video game ever was revealed, and the tripping. All of these gripes left Brawl in the dust, as players wanted to get away from it as quickly as possible. This was what made Sakurai go down the competitive path, which is partially why Smash 4, while also being considered one of the weakest, brought about a sense of apathy more than anger. Since Brawl felt like a complete 180, it instilled the shock in the community that probably still stings to this day, leaving the game in a permanent state of limbo, never to be talked about again. Or so it seemed. The holidays were months away, and on the family computer, my parents searched around looking for a couple of games to get for our Wii, and one game turned up as one of the first results. Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Mario, Pikachu, Link, Kirby, all of your Nintendo friends are here, with a couple of wildcards to spice it up. Oh, to duke it out as the hero of time, shooting arrows into Fox McCloud while being blown away by Samus' super missiles. We were practically salivating at the millions of possible fights we could have. The excitement was overflowing. The trailer was coming to an end. Our brains could barely handle the sudden adrenaline. And the best part? It looked like it was passing the parent test. They seemed to be into it. I mean, after all, it's just a fun little crossover beat-em-up. We didn't hold our breath, especially when Samus got out of her power suit, but the promises this trailer was bringing, combined with GameStop's pre-owned deal, made this game a shoo-in. And then... Our faces were frozen in complete shock. A wave of disappointment brushed over our parents' faces. We knew what was coming next. I could still hear it like it was yesterday. Yep, you guys aren't playing that. So we then agreed on Just Dance 2, along with some other games worthy of the miscellaneous category. It wasn't a total loss because we played the hell out of those games, especially Just Dance since we could get a good workout in, and it was kind of a sly excuse to listen to contraband we've never heard before, but a draw still isn't a win. Fast forward to December 2014, Smash 4 was the talk of the town, and now that we had our own access to the world of the internet, I got introduced to the Smash community the months before. Whenever the chance was given to me in between my chores and schoolwork, I'd watch as much as I could, diving deeper and deeper into the Smash universe, with stupid dreams of becoming the greatest player to ever exist. It was a paradise. My home away from home, but at home because I still have yet to attend a weekly. With more and more videos getting recommended to me, eventually, on one lonely night like the rest, that game would show up. The first episode of the Runaway Guys Let's Play of the Subspace Emissary. I then remembered that this was the game that was denied to us all those years ago, and after a couple of episodes with the holidays once again around the corner, I tried my hand at it one more time. I was much older now, so ESRB shouldn't be a problem for me, right? I think I was so determined that I only wanted Brawl for Christmas. No list, no rundown, just Brawl. I even cut watching the Let's Play short just to experience the Emissary for myself. All I wanted was to enter the world I spent so much time on the outside looking into. I wanted to be a part of this legendary event. And lo and behold, there it was. I still have the game case to this day. Notably pre-owned due to the cuts in the plastic, but I didn't care. All I knew was that it was time to plop this game in the Wii, get the unable to read the disc warning for the 5th time before hearing a word from the gods, and get smashing. From that day forward, a brand new fighter was born. The story doesn't end there, but I wanted to use that as a way of saying that Brawl was my entry into the Smash community, and it's also one of my most favorite games of all time. So looking at the discourse for this game all these years later, I was confused. How could people forget about this game? How could it be almost universally agreed upon that this was the one that we never mention again? Was it really that bad? Was I blind? Am I brainwashing myself from looking at the cold hard truth? This is why I made this video, and it's why I told that story. To finally face myself and find out for certain if Brawl does truly deserve to be forgotten. Before we break the structure down, you have to remember something first. Smash Bros. Was not meant to be a competitive game. The entire franchise, while considered by its fans to be a fighting game, jury's still out on that, was meant to be beginner friendly. Melee only ever became as competitive as it did because the Smash community utilized the potential they thought it had, which is why only like 1/3 of the roster and 6 stages were considered viable in tourneys. Seeing that people were breaking thumbs, mastering techs, and downloading combos, Sakurai thought that casuals would get left behind because of how fast Melee was. Thus, Sakurai doing everything in his power to make Brawl as beginner friendly as he could. The gameplay structure was definitely the most complained about issue when it came to discussing the quality of Brawl. It's too floaty, it's too slow. Where are all my combos? There's no sign of a skill ceiling. There's not much to learn and there isn't much to practice. To have such big changes rush in so suddenly, I can understand why people were upset. But now that time has passed and the dust has settled, we can come at this with a clearer mind. And after playing almost all the games myself, while I get where the community was coming from with their gripes, what Sakurai did with Brawl was no mistake. Almost. I've mentioned earlier that there's a bigger emphasis on weight, and Sakurai did a real good job in helping you feel the weight of these characters, not only in how slow they are, but in how strong their attacks are as well, which is one benefit they gained from making Brawl beginner friendly. If you haven't played Brawl in a while, or at all, you'll be taken aback by how quickly these guys can KO. They struggle to get airtime and they have problems chasing their enemies down, but once they get there, well, just hope they don't get there. Even if they're getting peppered, they pay no mind as they can take a couple clean hits themselves. Don't get me wrong, this depiction is by no means practical, because if we were to take these guys and put them in any other Smash game exactly as they are, they'd be worthless. Just look at Melee. But for Brawl, it works fine because this isn't a competitive space anymore. Since they didn't have to closely monitor the balance of the game, they could focus more on making the character fun to use, instead of trying to give people a reason to play them, but not too big a reason. With the way that these heavies are designed, almost every hit feels like a reward. The game will get at least one, "Holy crap, that killed?" out of you a match if you decide to play with one of these guys. And I dare you to try and play Ike and not admit to feeling a small rush of dopamine with every strike. Then once you flip over to the other side, it's like the chains have been lifted off the second you switch. Jumping around and using aerials with Kirby, Meta Knight, and Jigglypuff feels feather-like, smooth and effortless to use, allowing you to dish out an onslaught of attacks while also keeping your distance. Captain Falcon, Zero Suit Samus, and Sonic give you the chance to push the limits at breakneck speeds, allowing you to dish out an onslaught of attacks with no reason to keep your distance. Of course, there are characters that do some jobs better than others, mainly because the weaknesses that come with their weight are much less apparent, but their roles are clearly defined to such an extent that you can grasp the capability of the character the second you look at their portrait. Admittedly, I can't fault any of the newer games for not being able to achieve that, because it's almost impossible to do so without having to tone down and bring up certain attributes to make sure nobody's obsolete, i.e. the likes of Smash 4, where Bowser is the 17th fastest character in the game, notably bumping him to a lower mid-tier character, breaking the 2-gen bottom-tier streak, as opposed to Ganondorf, who only worked on weights instead of cardio over the years, and as a result, never breathed past bottom 5. But with Brawl's casual-friendly atmosphere, pretty much any character has a reason to be used, and no detail is spared in emulating the strength of your character. Yes, Brawl's structure has issues, and they can cause the game as a whole to feel clunky at times, like not being able to turn around with a tilt resulting in a forward jab, C-stick mashing making your character jump. How? Dashes sometimes being unresponsive, the end lag in between dashes, the inability to cancel dashes into moves other than up smash, the overall sluggishness between aerials and tilts in quick succession, final destination, infinites, stalling, chain grabs, wobbling, the goddamn tripping. I will never deny Brawl's flaws. Say that 5 times fast. But this part of Brawl's structure isn't the only thing the game has to offer. With it being so simple, it's essentially a blank canvas. Whatever flaws come with it get overshadowed by the content from outside sources being brought to the table, making every match a new experience. On top of that, there's all kinds of main events, minigames, and time killers ready to go. This is where Brawl shines the most. It both established and expanded upon what would become mainstays outside the core group section, granting the franchise's side content a much needed jolt, once again due to the casual friendly influence. But one thing at a time. Let's focus on the group section for now. This part of the menu is plain and simple. Not much about it has changed since Melee, with the exception of a few quality of life tweaks. Special Brawl ditched the different modes and split them all down into toggleable ailments and buffs. This allows players to mess with as many special rules as they like, as each rule being dialed down to a specific mode only allowed for the player to use one at a time. Tourney mode is self-explanatory, and rotation helps divide matches between groups larger than 4 by putting them in a line that replaces either winners or losers. You have your name entry tab, and while not related to the group tab, they added the ability to change controls for specific names. Thank God for this, because I have no idea how anyone was able to get by with tap jump. And last but most certainly not least, we have the main versus mode dubbed the Brawl mode, with 3 different rule sets to play from. Timed, where you fight to gain the most kills by the end of the match. Stock, the mode that puts Smash on the fighting game map, where you fight to take all of your opponent's stocks. And Coin, which is timed but with coins instead of KOs. Handicap makes a return, but instead of ratioing the amount of knockback you take with 9 levels, you get to mess with your starting percentage. If you're a Lucario main, you can use it for a permanent risk-reward challenge by starting with a stronger aura, or if you're daring, you can try to win at max. You can also just let the game do it automatically, basing its decisions on the amount of wins and losses each player has, making win streaks harder to keep. Damage ratio makes characters easier or harder to launch. Quite the useful tool if you want your Mega Brawls to last a bit longer. Then you got additional rules, which has your stock time limit, friendly fire, the option to turn off pausing, score display, and random stage switch. A couple changes here and there, but nothing too drastic. Those were reserved for the juicy part. Let's double back to the core gameplay structure, aside from what I've already talked about. I stated multiple times that Brawl's strengths are in its casual atmosphere, so it's a given that the items are a huge contributor to the potential the gameplay can give. This is even supported by some words from the man himself. On the Smash Bros Dojo website, it cites that these items can help intensify the slapstick nature and the anything can happen spirit of Brawl. This is further substantiated by the ability to grab items out of the air while using moves, making way for recycling items well past their expiration date, and being able to move while using projectile-based items like the ray gun and fire flower. A lot of these items, due to their abnormal strength and reactions to the game's physics, can kill in rather interesting ways. I won't get into every single item, Pokémon, and assist trophy because we'd be here all day, but I do want to touch on some of the highlights, mostly the subjects first introduced in Brawl. The Cracker Launcher, a Brawl exclusive, allows you to unload a series of fireworks at different angles. If you can line them up, you can essentially lift your enemy up to the blast zone. This was one of the first items I used when I began playing Brawl, and it's one of the first indicators that told me that Brawl was a game to be laughed at, because I still laugh at how broken it is to this day. The Dragoon is split into 3 pieces. Pick up all 3 and if you can land your shot, your opponent is pretty much done for. Only thing is that the pieces can fall out of your pockets if either you're hit hard enough or if a CPU hits you at all. Another issue is that if you're playing team battle and both of you have one piece, someone's gotta die, because the pieces will only combine on one person, teammate or not. Nevertheless, it makes for a great comeback tool. The Golden Hammer is how I developed trust issues. Blast Box, Gooey Bomb, Deku Nut, Smart Bomb, they all do the same thing, pop up in the middle of a kerfuffle and hand you your complimentary parting gift. Here's another item that always leaves me becoming the victim in spite of me picking it up, the Lightning Bolt. It works exactly like it does in Mario Kart, a pocket Dementor hell-bent on being the plot contrivance to ruining your victory. Except this time, it can be all your doing. Ha! This guy thinks I don't know where he put that pitfall seed. We're on the same screen, buddy. I'm never gonna fall for that. The Soccer Ball is another item that I always laugh at, because besides the rolling crate, this item showcases Brawl's physics at their finest. I especially lose it when it ricochets off of different characters, even more so when you create a box stage and leave only the Soccer Ball on high frequency. Each speeding ball hits so hard that it stops time for just a second, as if the game itself is pausing to breathe. Now Unera trusts no one. Why? Because instead of caring for them like a good pet owner would, we just throw them to the ground and abuse their defense mechanism to attack the enemy. So if they get smash attacked by said enemy, they lower their own defenses so that they can be used against you. They don't care if they get hurt in the process, they just want to see chaos. They want blood on the ground. Unira is the Smash personification of anybody can get it, and it was no one else's fault but our own. The Smash Ball. The critical art of the Smash world. From deathly fireballs to meteor showers, from Kamehamehas to Super Saiyan Mayhem, this is the destruction of video game deities materialized. A powerful and personalized hammer. What puts the Smash in Smash Brothers, for the most part. Whether you need to catch up or seal the deal, this is without a doubt Smash's most powerful weapon, and it would be in your best interest to either get to it first, or if you were unfortunate enough to miss out, KO the beholder, having them take the Smash Ball with them, because you just never know how even an uphill battle can get from one good use. Deoxys is probably the hardest legendary Pokemon to trigger, and also has the hardest hitbox to make use of. And for good reason, as his beam can lay waste to boys and girls of all shapes and percentages. Hearing his war cries, he throws the hammer down, instills feelings of godlike power in ways both you and your opponent never thought possible. Groudon doesn't deal too much damage. In fact, he doesn't really do much at all. If you touch him, you'll suffer a weak launch, but he's always a majestic sight to see. Kyogre is Mario's Flood, but on a sick and twisted cocktail of meth, steroids, and Diet Coke. He will not settle until he hears you scream. Aww, she's adorable. You can't see them right now, but every Smash player that heard that cry just instinctively got the urge to mash the jump button. One swipe from Weavile and you're stuck for the rest of his stay here. This is probably the first intentionally developed Infinite. Mashing won't help because he'll dash back the second you snap out of it, so you might as well put your controller down in defeat and wait for your due punishment. The last Pokemon I'm going to mention is a special one. Definitely the rarest Pokemon in the game, as she's the sole mythical Pokemon in the list, and I'm going to do it by means of another story. It went like this. Me and my brother were just messing around playing Smash like usual when a Pokeball spawned for the taking. After it was thrown, we expected a Munchlax or a Goldeen, maybe a mid-tier Pokemon like Torchic or Togepi, but it wasn't even any of the known legendaries. The ball struck the ground, and out came a Pokemon we've never seen in the hundreds of hours we put into Brawl. She didn't look threatening and might have just been another Mew, so we fought like usual. Then all of a sudden, the game stops. Some hearts go across the screen, the game resumes, but wait, we swapped bodies? We both sat there looking at each other and back at the screen, completely bewildered. Both of us from season to green in an instant, desperately trying to grab hold of characters we weren't used to playing, until eventually we were swapped back, and the rest of the match went on like nothing happened. Regrettably, we were too excited to remember to save the replay, but we did snap a cool pic with Link. Even to this day, I can still feel how surprised I was. A strong memory burned into my mind to be replayed over and over, every time I see a Pokeball, hoping that someday she comes back to grace the screen again. Fox's sworn nemesis. His projectiles are slow, but cover most of the screen. Combine that with high kill power, he's annoying to deal with. Barbara also boasts a huge hitbox, but instead of projectiles, she rocks out with a field of energy. The Devil moves the screen around, making the blast zone edges more dangerous, resulting in either me losing a stock or having to deal with the awkward angles. I hate him, next trophy. Gray Fox is hands down the best assist trophy in terms of usefulness. He's fast and he deals massive amounts of damage relatively quickly. If you somehow survive him, give yourself a pat on the back, because you're good. Period. Can't forget about his creepy voice lines either.
Make me feel alive again, like old times, Snake. That's it. I've been waiting for this pain.
Oh, Isaac, to be snubbed 3 games in a row. This long overdue Smash candidate throws out magic hands that not only push you, but launch you back into the hand that just launched you previously until either it disappears or pushes you into the blast zone. Jeff is another almost guaranteed stock trophy. He's a cracker launcher, except the fireworks heat seek the opponent. He also has an RNG element to decide on if the fireworks show was good enough. If he thinks you're not satisfied with the taste of gunpowder, he'll give you a second helping free of charge. Knuckle Joe is almost on Gray Fox's level, but he doesn't have nearly as much range nor speed. But he does make up for it in power though. And voice lines. Even as an assist trophy, he's still trash. Oh, Lynn, to be snubbed 2 games in a row. This also long overdue Smash candidate Zantetsuken is exploitable, but the hitbox lasts just a bit longer than you would anticipate. No sour spot either, so focusing on dodging her while the opponent uses her presence to their advantage is the difference between life and death. At first it looks like Mr. Rossetti's purpose is to be a petty annoyance, but to be honest he's quite the opposite. Once he appears for the first time and puts out his intro speech, where he talks about his hometown and reacts to digging up into the Smash universe, he goes into 3 different speeches at random from then on. In the first speech, he talks about washing his clothes and how assist trophies work. In the second, he talks about his job begrudgingly, as if he can't stand it, to the point of almost breaking down. Then has thoughts about how the game would be if he were to join the roster, before trying to dissuade the others from joining the experience. Finally, at the climax, he's had enough. He first tries to do an impersonation of whatever character is on the field, is upset that nobody laughed, and teases that he's going to get out of his burrowing hole and teach us a lesson. Sadly, he pinches a nerve and succumbs to his old age before telling us that staying up late's for punks and leaving. Could you imagine if he was a secret character, like on the third speech he jumps out of his hole and turns into a level 9 CPU and becomes playable if you beat him? Imagine if that were the case for Shadow, Isaac, and Lyn. It's fun to dream. Get off the screen! Ha! His assist trophy was a dud. Where are these blasts coming from? It's like they're appearing out of thin air. How can I dodge these if I can't see? Oh. Starfy's just happy to be in Smash, and I'm not mad at it. You go, Starfy. Up. Waluigi isn't fast, but this man's got hops. His stomp is a berry, so if you're in the air and he doesn't like that, say hello to the ground again and ask for a second date, cause that's where you're staying until he topspins you to break the deuce. Waluigi is almost up there with Gray Fox, but Daisy's my favorite Mario character, and Waluigi is her mortal enemy, so for that reason, we have to chop you. I know there's a lot more items, Pokemon, and trophies that I didn't get into, but aside from time reasons, bringing up what came from Melee would have been a bit redundant, as they more or less stayed the same. And some of the newer additions would have been boring to talk about, as a lot of their functions are either straightforward or impractical. That doesn't mean that every item that I didn't talk about were bad or useless, they just bloat the runtime. But even so, it feels like something's missing. Remember when I said that Brawl was a game to be laughed at? Yeah, well, this is one of its many ways of returning the favor. Of course these aren't new, but this is definitely where they get turned up to 11. At first, you have your stage hazards. The ricocheting lava falls at Norfair, the racers at Mario Circuit, the hungry Chimera at Newport City, the legendary Pokemon at the best Pokemon stage, the Bulbins at the Bridge of Eldin, but then you have the stages that are hazards themselves, like the Mushrooming Kingdom, giving you the chance to go through the very first and second Mario Bros. Levels. No Goombas or Koopas to jump on though. Kind of a missed opportunity. Or WarioWare, a stage that gives buffs to whoever accomplishes the microgame being displayed, the entirety of Port Town Aerodive, the unholy trifecta for anyone who has a bad recovery, the one that shouldn't have existed, Rumble Falls. We don't talk about Rumble Falls. Among many others burning with anticipation to make Smashers' lives miserable. The overhaul on stages ensures that if you somehow get bored playing with items, the hazards add a new element to help mix it up, as both being combined can make for funny happenings in between battles. Alright, now that we've gone over the biggest factors that add to Brawl's chaos, how's about we get to the smaller ones? Every character with wings can glide by holding the jump button. You can fly to each blast zone and ledge if you know how to grab air by diving. Of course this was removed because people, mostly Meta Knight mains, would abuse this to stall the match, but you can't deny that it's fun to use, especially if you make little flight courses to hold gliding competitions via the stage creator or temple stage. On the more technical side, DI and Smash DI, if combined, can get you out of most multi-hit hitboxes, and plays a huge part in helping you survive kill moves thanks to momentum cancelling. Another Brawl debut is the ability to grab ledges from behind you, Ike Main's Lament, in addition to bringing along tether recoveries, crawling, and wall clinging. Meteor smashes are easier to land, and pivot grabbing was made trouble-free by allowing you to pivot while running instead of only during the short window of the initial dash. Your thumbs can rest now.
Phew, free at last!
It took us 2 halves, but we made it through. That does it for the structure of Brawl, and the group tab as a whole. Now onto the next parts of the menu. The parts of the menu that makes Brawl shine in the face of its competitors. Classic mode returns with a few changes. Instead of the enemies being universally random, they're now character themed, at the expense of the target minigame being shrunk down to 5 stages spanning the roster. All-Star mode is back and bigger than ever, tasking you with fighting Brawl's cast in franchise-locked intervals, friends not included. If we're being real, bringing a partner along is the best way to play All-Star because, the list has grown significantly. And you can have a Survivor-style elimination round on who gets to eat the heart containers. Finally, to keep with the classic mode trophy reward tradition, you can get the new Final Smash trophies for each character you clear All-Star mode with. It's too bad you can't get trophies for both characters used in co-op though. To further represent the event match, the majority of Brawl events force you and your teammate to use certain characters for specific challenges. Only 9 events in total consisting of either All-Star events or Final Battle events allow you to pick whatever character you like, making sure that every character is used at least once throughout these events. As for the challenges themselves, some might have you guard your Pikmin until their flowers bloom, give you a small window to permanently KO Yoshis, fight as Lucario at high aura, remodel Skyworld, and others give funny nods like racing to the Mushroom Kingdom flag as Bowser, the Shadow Link fight, and even Kaiju. You guys remember that Kung Fu Panda scene where Po tried so hard to do a split to the point to where he got stuck, and then Tigress effortlessly did one in the air while shattering 2 plates in the process? Yeah, that's home run contest in a nutshell. Still fun to knock Sandbag around though. You should've stuck with the character-specific stages. This could have been consolidated to Cruel Brawl because the other modes are kinda boring to me. Then again, the CPUs can't have the satisfaction of turning the tables on you, so I guess they serve some purpose. But there are better record-setter minigames out there, like boss battles. This is only playable after the Subspace Emissary, as this is a boss rush of every main boss from that mode. And like All-Star mode, you can bring a friend along. Unlike All-Star mode, you have no continues. And the rewards, which are a bunch of Subspace themed trophies and Wolf from boss battles, are single player exclusive. Although, once again, I do recommend you bring a friend along because it's a lot more fun suffering shared pain through this gauntlet with some help. The boss's strength scales with your team along with your difficulty choice, so it'll make the victory taste that much sweeter. Is there even a good reason to use this? Oh wait. Damn it! Come on! There we go. Whew! Finally. Why do I hear birds chirping? Ah yes, the vault. The one spot where you can see and create your blood, sweat, and tears in physical digital form. I honestly can't tell you how many hours I spent in this section of the menu. I wasted so much time looking at the various trophies and reading up on their backgrounds and descriptions. Heroes, sidekicks, and villains from all versions of every Nintendo world converted it to anime figures for your viewing pleasure. Even the items themselves have trophies with funny explanations to boot. The trophy section is also the beholder of one of the best songs to come out of this series. As I'm writing this script, I would unknowingly stare into space, rethinking my life choices and reminiscing on the days I got away by means of this game. It's pure nostalgia, and it definitely stands up there with the best of the best.
Need more trophies? Looking for ways to get that one special figure you desire? Well, step right up to the coin launcher. A Galaga-style minigame where you can shoot coins at random trophies, picking up bonus stickers along the way.
There's a meter at the bottom that fills up if you successfully kill every enemy in a wave. Fill it up and you get unlimited ammo and a higher fire rate with more trophies to gun for. You might not always get what you want, but the gameplay itself is a little addictive. It's so weird going back and looking at my photos and replays from years ago. I usually get rid of a lot of my past knickknacks and trinkets because, if I'm not using it, it's just taking up space, but I'm glad I didn't think that way here. Masterpieces is a collection of blasts from the past and short demos. It would have been cool if you could play these games in full, but I'm sure there were limitations, especially with Ocarina of Time being on the list. They're fun to fool around with from time to time, and they can serve as a challenge to see how far you can get before either time runs out, or you come to the realization that video games back then were assholes. Ho, there's a reason why I wanted to close off the vault with this. Yes, it's super simple. Yes, having only 3 themes to choose from made stages repetitive. And yes, the parts limiter always introduced itself when you needed that one last final perfect piece. But it's only all those things if you limit yourself. Except maybe the simple and themes part. I'm not nearly as creative as I used to be because I crafted whatever popped up in my mind at the time. Functionality be damned. I also used to have some very colorful nameage. But if you look past the themes, you'll come to find out that there's plenty that you can do with these parts. You just have to think outside the box. Special Brawl exists for a reason. I liked feeling like a scientist or an inventor, using heavy CPUs as test subjects. If they can fight each other on the stage without SDing, then it's basically foolproof. Back to the drawing board, I guess. It's definitely a lot more fleshed out in the later games, and I took advantage of those too, but the limitations of past hardware pushed me to find workarounds and solutions to keep it all within the parts limit. And you might think you know you've succeeded if you use it in a real Brawl for the first time, but no. That feeling of success only comes when you click random and your stage is the one that's chosen. Pop the sparkling apple cider and call for a toast. It's a part of the game now. The vault serves as the after-party post-fight, a place for you to wind down and take in all that you fought for. From looking back at Nintendo's history or your own, to creating history altogether, the vault will always have a place for your introspective, reminiscent needs. Okay, that's all the menus down, aside from what I saved till last. But we're not done just yet. We've gone over Brawl's fundamentals, but what about its bells and whistles? Brawl has taken up a much more realistic and dark influence, resembling an art style to that of Twilight Princess, as their designs fit like a glove here. Characters that come from happy, cartoonish realms filled with sunshine, gumdrops, and rainbows get brushed over with less saturated palettes and rougher shadows and shaders. Lucario, the Kongs, the Canines, and DDD and the Climber's Parkas are all shown to have fur-like textures. Instead of hair being an almost unison flowing shape, it's more detailed, with individual strands coming together to create the iconic styles we all remember, with some extra movement to further sell the illusion. The Mario Brothers overalls, Lucas and Ness's shorts, and Wario's jacket have all been denimized. Samus's power suit has been polished a bit, with a glossier coat of paint. Peach's outfit is more regal, drawing itself closer to royal dresses in the real world, down to her gloves. Don't look at me like that. We all done it. Bowser's design as a whole is a great example of how far they went. Look at his teeth, claws, and spikes. Their off-white color and rugged textures. He has scales. He's hunched over with a shell more than half his size that he uses as a weapon. He looks angrier in the face. And furthermore, he sounds like Godzilla. This isn't the same old I'll get you next time Saturday morning cartoon villain here. This guy's got some serious planning underneath that shell, but he won't hesitate to let out his inner beast with his final smash. Even though the game is pushing towards realism, notice how they don't sacrifice the original designs in any way. In fact, they found ways to complement them. Take Wario for example. A lot of his moves are start and stop animations, and when he uses certain moves that require a specific body part, that body part becomes embiggened. Yes, other characters do this, but for Wario, it's in an excessive way. He's just as zany and all over the place as he is in his own games, but he still fits the Brawl criteria. Toon Link is another great example, going so far as to be the only character whose explosions differ from the rest of the cast. Also taking the cake is one of the most expressive. Toon is literally in his name, yet he still looks like he belongs. Each and every one of these characters came from their respective worlds and lost none of their identity in being molded for Brawl. The best part is that it doesn't stop there. It's prevalent in their movesets as well, like Nairu's love and its glass-like structure, giving off reflections as if it were a diamond protecting Zelda. Or, in a more general sense, this is seen in moves revolving around elements, like Squirtle's waterbending, Mario and Luigi's fireballs, the Ice Climber's ice shot. All of these and many more have been given the realistic touch, without having to give up what makes these characters. But it doesn't even stop at characters. Look at the stages. Mushroomy Kingdom, Howlbird, Big Blue, New Pork City. Once you compare these stages to the worlds they came from, their looks are night and day, but the essence of these worlds are still there. Green Hill Zone and Pirate Ship are combinations of old and new, making use of both realistic and their own game's textures. It goes to show that they did their due diligence in making sure that the family-friendly demeanor of Nintendo and the ruggedness of Brawl could coexist. They prepared the atmosphere for the characters instead of forcing them into a bunch of awkward redesigns to accommodate for their creative vision. It works because there's intention in what they created. They made sure that they did everyone and their games justice in spite of the realistic direction. It's a fresh take done right because they didn't lean so heavy into the darker aspects to seem edgy or adult. And it's not a dash of realism to simply spice up the graphics. This is an art direction that pays respects to the legacies it borrows, wasting no effort in elevating, not replacing, what came before it. Now for what I consider to be the one thing Brawl definitely has an edge over its competitors. Brawl's sound design is like no other. From the sounds of the moves, to the ambiance, to the voice actors especially. This was when I think it was all at its peak. While in other games the effects are more balanced, in Brawl the quiets are quiet and the louds are booming. You don't pay attention to jabs and pokes from light to middleweight characters. The sounds are there, but not really anything life-threatening. with the exception of a few moves and movesets here and there. The loud sounds are reserved for the stronger guys of the bunch. While Link is considered a heavy, he has fast attacks, so obviously they're going to be on the quieter side. Then we bring out Ike. All of his moves take a second to get to where they're going, so naturally his sound effects will be heard from across the stage. Same with the likes of Mario and Bowser's headbutts. Or anyone who uses their fists and DK. But the definition of sounds isn't what makes Brawl the best for me. It's the uniqueness and distinctions of them. Ness's bat, Dedede's hammer, Pit's bow, Meta Knight's sword, Lucario's aura, or Snake and Fox's entire movesets. Even more so with special moves. Then it can be in the smallest of things, like Samus's first jump, or Bowser's walk, or the biggest of things like final smashes.
Know my power.
If you turn off the music and go to Frigate Orpheon, Brawl turns into a horror game. Sometimes whenever the hand and bow stage gets picked, it's nice to sit there and listen to the fish knock the notes around. This is also the only stage in the game that has no music to pick from, as the stage itself creates its own songs.
Ready, go!
I know a lot of legacy characters both make a return and have a place to stay in future titles, but some of these new voices got left behind, which was unfortunate because Brawl had the best voice acting of the series. Hear me out. Let's talk Pit for example. Due to Pit not really having much of an identity in his first game, one had to be made up. From what I could gather from the Subspace Emissary, Pit does display childish behavior, but ultimately will stiffen up and get the job done at Palutena's command. He's a soldier that will do what needs to be done for the greater good.
He may look young, but he's a veteran warrior. Watch yourself. He used to be a weakling, but countless trials over the years have toughened him up.
To further facilitate this, Lonnie Manila's Pit sounds mature. Her voice is deep, but not so much as to where he sounds like an adult.
The fight is on! You're not ready yet! All troops, move out!
He's sure of his skills and conveys himself as if he's ready to lead, and it shows more and more throughout the course of the Emissary. Now compare him to future titles.
Come on! That all you got? Bye now! 3 sacred treasures!
Of course this is influenced by Uprising, and since it's comedic in tone, Pit had to be adapted with it, making him more of an overconfident but dutiful errand boy to be joked about endlessly.
Pit, go get me a cinnamon roll.
Right away, Zelt. Hey! Knock it off, Reedy.
Pit, get me a glazed donut with rainbow sprinkles.
Yes, right away. A glazed donut with rainbow... stop it!
No ire to Del Rio, of course, but I can't stand how whiny he comes off.
Ah!
It's a constant ringing in my ears, and I couldn't take it. It's why I dropped him. The same can also be said about Fox. I'll give Steve Malpass's Fox props because nothing beats the tried and true. But Jim Walker's Fox, once again, sounds as if he's ready to lead, and not overacting or asleep at the wheel like he is in the later games.
Here I come! Come on! Fire! Here I come! Come on! Fire! Let's go! Come at me! Fire!
Dex Manley's Falco is just as iconic and essential as Midori Kawa's Marth.
Piece of cake. Don't try me. Hands off my prey. Personally, I prefer the air.
I said what I said. This one doesn't really count because he stays in Smash 4, but Ike's previous voice actor, Jason Adkins, is unmatched. One thing about Ike is that the strength of his moveset would be nothing without his voice actor. The one we have now is trying his best, but it's not enough to convey the earth-shattering strength Ike's moves project.
Prepare yourself.
Prepare yourself.
Ether!
Ether!
Great Ether!
Great Ether!
Another one I miss as well is Bill Rogers' Lucario.
Watch the power!
Same case with Ike, just too soft-spoken for me.
Sonic's the name, speed's my game.
Finally, our golden boy, Jason Griffith's Sonic the Hedgehog, in all its glory. I love Roger Craig Smith to death. Your contributions to the Sonic Boom TV show could never be repaid. But in terms of Smash,
You're too slow. Come on, step it up. Now I'll show you.
sorry, Jason's just way past cool. But you know what else is way past cool? The feature that walked so that Palutena's guidance could stumble.
That guy with the mustache.
Snake's Codec calls, a taunt Easter egg filled with various dialogues from the main Metal Gear Solid cast, making comments on the character Snake's fighting against. Mei Ling, Otacon, and Colonel Roy each chip in on different characters, whether it's to describe them and their backstories, give Snake pointers on how to combat them, or a combination of the two. From the chemistry and wit these guys have bouncing off of one another, the voice actors sounded like they had a blast.
He also has a whole arsenal of items at his disposal. Bombs and arrows, a shield, a boomerang, and a claw shot. He's a force to be reckoned with.
Gear is only useful when it's used at the right time and place. Just lugging a ton of it around doesn't do you any good.
I wouldn't be talking if I were you, Snake.
What's that supposed to mean?
You tell me, Mr. Utility Belt.
Lucario can use his own aura and turn it into power. Every time Lucario's damage increases, his aura gains strength, making his attacks more powerful. So don't think you've got him beat just because his health is down.
The cornered rat will bite the cat. Sounds like trouble.
Hey, when did you become so good with proverbs?
You must have rubbed off on me.
Well, come back in one piece, and I'll teach you all the Chinese proverbs you can handle.
So, he makes his Pokémon fight while he sits back and watches. Sounds like a good deal if you ask me.
It's not like that, Snake. Those Pokémon wouldn't know what to do if the Pokémon trainer wasn't there giving orders. In every battle, there's a soldier doing the fighting and a commander telling him what to do. By working together as a team, they accomplish much more than either could on their own. So let's do this together, partner.
Yeah, whatever you say, Colonel.
It was cool to both see the crew try to make sense of everything with a pragmatic scientific mindset, since Metal Gear Solid is set in the real world, and listen to them geek out, salute, or show discomfort towards certain characters. Can't forget about the nods and references either.
They all have certain things in common. Green clothes, a sword, a shield, but they all came from different lands, and lived in different eras. And yet the spirit of the hero of the Triforce is timeless. It's an essence that transcends history.
I think I can relate to that.
What do you mean?
There's been more than one Snake, too, you know.
Copy, Snake. This is Slippy.
What? Who is this?
Easy there, buddy. Just thought I'd hop on the wireless and give you a holler. Don't get mad.
Hacked right into my channel, huh?
But I'm not here to mess nothing up. Don't worry.
Look at that pale skin. He's been living in his brother's shadow for too long.
That's a low blow, Colonel.
Ah, face it, Snake. Once a kid brother, always a kid brother.
Colonel, what's gotten into you?
Lolly-loo-lay-lo, lolly-loo-lay-lo, lolly-loo-lay-lo.
Colonel, snap out of it! Colonel! Colonel!
Snake, you copy? Snake!
Snake! What's going on? Snake?
Snake! Don't quit now! Snake!
Snake!
The Subspace Emissary. This was what put the cross and crossover. This was when it felt official. No matter how many people hate Brawl, only a small few hate the Emissary, and that's no accident. It seems simple, just a Smash-style beat-em-up across different realms and stages, fighting enemies from past and present with your favorite gaming legends. But we wouldn't be here if it really was that simple, would we? Let's finish this off once and for all, starting at the beginning. We're brought to a floating stadium full of fans cheering, with Zelda and Peach monitoring a fight between Mario and Kirby. Here's the first of many character select screens where you and your teammate can pick among whoever is forwarding the story at the current moment. For this one, you both will have to team up against the character that becomes your opponent. It's just a regular brawl. Take the stock to win. After the fight, we go back a couple of minutes to meet Pit, who's spectating via scrying pool. We return to the present. The fighters send their regards, but they're then interrupted by Meta Knight's halberd menacingly approaching the stadium. Clusters of shadowy orbs fall from the ship, forming what we find out are foot soldiers called Primids. Now made aware of the situation, Zelda and Peach leap into battle to assist the duo. I don't know what it was, but these character select screens and the who ya got demeanor always got me excited. There's something about seeing childhood stalwarts pose like badasses and having the chance to pick and choose who you want to take into the coming fight. But enough about posing. The first stages are the Emissary's way of showing you the ropes. We're put into a multi-primid smash with items to help take them down. But what's this? The Ancient Minister arrives, carrying what looks to be a bomb. Mario chases it down, but is stopped by a cannonball from hell. Then Petey Piranha takes a page from Tears Ganondorf and somehow has the princesses in cages, starting up our first boss fight. We're given a choice. Whose cage should we destroy? Zelda or Peach's? I tried gunning for both, but the game just picks at random anyway. I do remember that back in the day we went for Peach because we knew that Zelda could protect herself. Oops. As much as Kirby and Peach would have loved to save their friend, the bomb explodes, leaving the stadium and the thousands of people within it in a black hole. Skyworld has caught wind of the explosion, and Palutena then sends Pit on his way, bow in hand, ending the cutscene with a cool flight sequence. To keep on with getting our feet wet, we're now trekking through our first side-scroller level, which makes this a good time to explain how these work and a catch-all breakdown since most of these levels are variations of the same model. They're basically obstacle courses filled with doors, traps, gimmicks, and bad guys, each themed after a character's respective world. Mythical creatures and floating obstacles in the sky, animals, Koopas, cannons, and minecarts in the jungle, weapon-based enemies and extra enemy rushes at the fortress, you get the idea. At times there will be boxes, both common and rare, littered around these levels with weapons, stickers, healing items, trophies, and CDs, scaling with the box's rarity. In case you don't come across these boxes often, don't worry. Enemies will drop their contents as well, although at a less frequent rate. The majority of these levels end with a mini-boss gatekeeping the final door, which is characterized by a shining light and yellow coat or hue, topping it all off with a cutscene or a final boss. That's pretty much what the gameplay loop falls down to, and it's a good thing we went over all that first, because now, after one more stop just up ahead, we're open to coast along with the rest of the story uninterrupted. So let's proceed, shall we? On the way down, Pit finally meets the Halberd, and it sends a bunch of Primids his way, bringing him to Mario's landing zone. Once awakened, he nods in agreement to bring the Primids to justice, forming up our next duo. Unfortunately, the Halberd's gotten ahead of them. Fortunately, a member of the Star Fox crew is hot on their tail, which then brings us to the main hub and the sticker system, which is the upgrade system. The sticker system works like this. Each character has a trophy base that can be used to attach stickers you'll collect all throughout your journey. These stickers hold buffs that add to your attack, defense, and overall utility. You can boost your power by increasing a limb or element's damage, and by having your character spawn with certain items. You can also become more resilient to flinching, launches, or once again, a specific element. Some characters might have either universe-exclusive stickers, like Jigglypuff and Pokemon Trainer's character portrait stickers being available to only Pokemon, or ability-exclusive stickers, like Lucario's Aura stickers. The strength of the upgrade is offset by the size of the sticker itself, and please, for the love of God, do not be an idiot like me and spam duplicate stickers on one character, because these upgrades don't stack. They instead only register the highest number of that specific upgrade. I strongly suggest you double check before confirming your sticker builds, because removing the sticker after equipping it deletes the sticker in its entirety. This is something I didn't know until halfway through my playthrough, and it caused for a great many of my stickers to be wasted. A crash course for sticker building would have been great, but you live and you learn, I guess. The numbers may seem small, but trust me, it makes the fight towards subspace much easier, especially in boss fights, which become complete doozies as you progress further. Kirby and Peach are sent into the Sea of Clouds by the now clawed R-Wing we saw before. We get to the ground and our focus shifts to the Kongs, who are trying to stop the Koopa gang from getting away with the jungle's bananas. We catch up on the stolen spoils, and it turns out that Bowser wasn't far behind, and neither was his trophy gun. To save his overconfident son from being zapped, he wind-up punches him away, leaving himself to take the hit. On the way to safety, Diddy, Kong Jr., finds the grounded R-Wing, but aw shit! A wild Rayquaza appears, putting Kong Jr. in peril after finishing the job on the mystery Star Fox member. Or so we thought. Fox McCloud saves the day, and he joins forces with Kong Jr. to defeat Rayquaza, our second boss. We trek deeper into the jungle, and it looks like Bowser came back for seconds. Psych! That Bowser was a Shadow Bowser, in case you couldn't tell by his yellow eyes and obvious purple mist. He was actually a distraction for the real Bowser, looking to take the cheap shot before Fox grabs Kong Jr. and retreats. Next up is the Ruined Zoo and Lucas, forever doomed to be running away from his past, it seems. Good thing his friend is also a PSI wielder. Now the gloves are off. This boss is a surefire indicator that the game is done holding your hand. Porky will make contact at all ranges, whether by death laser or kamikaze Porkies. Just air dodge like hell and hope Ness's Fair can carry you. Dick move, Wario. Trouble never strays too far behind, as yet another group of Primids surround both him and his newfound partner, Pokemon Trainer. They brave the Horde and look to be going separate ways, but Lucas sees this as an opportunity at redemption, so he sticks with Pokemon Trainer for the time being. Another bomb has been detonated, and a concerned Marth looks to eliminate the source. So we make haste past the entrance, only to be greeted by a vengeful Meta Knight ready to duel before cutting it short to attend to the sudden Primid army. Working together, they clear the infestation and chase after the ancient minister. Their doubled strength isn't enough. But what if it were tripled? If you didn't pick Ike after the bad assery that just commenced, and then unnecessarily taunted after every wave clear, did you ever really play the Subspace Emissary? The Halberd drops clusters in the woods, leaving Link, his freshly picked Master Sword, and Yoshi to clear them out. Meanwhile, Zero-Suit Samus has infiltrated a research facility, looking to retrieve her power suit before entering a room housing a generator siphoning away at Pikachu's life force. Sickened by this injustice, she releases him from his cage and sets out to protect him from danger. The Robs have been deterred for the moment, and the power suit is within reach. We return to Peach and Kirby. We return to Mario and Pit, seconds away from a frozen fate, but Link and Yoshi delay the attack, taking Shadow Peach down in the process. Unaware of what's happened, Mario seeks revenge to his and his friend Pit's demise, and before Link and Yoshi get a chance to explain themselves, Dedede snatches the duo, looking to get away with an extraordinary haul. Kirby then rains on his parade, freeing Mario and Pit from Dedede's grasp. And the five chase after him to the entrance of an abandoned mine, leading to a mansion darkened by the shadow of the ever-present halberd in the clouds, finishing off the stage with a brief look at the man pulling the strings. Continuing on Pokemon Trainer and Lucas's path, it seems that Pokemon Trainer's found his next catch. And so did Wario. It's time for round 2. Lucas exacts his revenge, but Ness is nowhere in sight. He fears he might be too late, but Pokemon Trainer says otherwise. Inside the mansion, Dedede dusts off and somberly decorates his collection before being ambushed by Bowser and his Koopa gang, taking Zelda with them. The five catch up and do everything within their strength to retrieve Zelda, but to no avail. Bowser gets away once again. Oh, and it turns out that the one pulling the strings was in fact having his own strings pulled by Master Hand. After Pokemon Trainer catches Ivysaur and Charizard, Marth, Ike, and Meta Knight make their way towards the suspicious contraption flying across the wilds, only to find out that it's our next boss fight, a giant weaponized mech that's programmed to twirl like a ballerina and rage quit when it loses. Too bad for Pokemon Trainer and Lucas, his baby raging caused for him to fall in their path. This form is a slightly more annoying version, as when he rage quits this time, he takes Pokemon Trainer and Lucas with him. Luckily, Lucas gathered the courage to use PK Thunder on his arm, and as payment to Pokemon Trainer for helping him conquer his fear, he prepares himself to absorb the impact of the impending doom that awaits them at the ground.
What?
Elsewhere in the wilds, the ancient minister looks back in sorrow at all that he's done, but then is trespassed by the five from before. After being chased down yet again, further regret is instilled as another bomb is detonated. Bowser, Fox, and Kong Jr. meet again, but not without air support. Falco, in a way only he can, dazzlingly destroys Bowser's weapon, forcing him to retreat. Fox then unfreezes Kong Jr. and preps for the fight against Kong Sr.? The trio comes out on top. A job well done. They spot Donkey Kong on an airship to a floating island, and backup arrives just in time. Back at the research facility, Samus is inches away from taking back what's hers, but aw shit! It was a trap as she finds herself caught in between two purple power suits ready to terminate. After terminating the Terminators and blazing through Robs with her newly acquired power suit, the way out is in sight. Surprise! Ridley swoops down to test out the durability of his new toy before Pikachu cuts his playtime short, beginning both our next boss fight and one of the best banger remixes in Smash history. Upon exiting the facility, Samus and Pikachu spot what looks to be the main factory producing the bombs, and make that their next target. Need I say more? Kong Jr. saves DK, and Cap starts liking the cut of his jib, so he and Olimar, against his wishes, gives the Kongs a helping hand, riding the airship into its hangar. The Halberd and Great Fox are engaged in a heavy space battle, and Meta Knight climbs the mountain, hoping to regain control of his ship, with the Ice Climbers not too far behind him, but with intentions to compete for the peak. Too bad Lucario already beat them to the punch. Both of them. Ultimately, they all come together, the ships too, and are separated by the avalanche the Halberd caused. Pyramids from the Halberd attack Ike and the gang, and the five jump in to help out. The plan that was hinted to us in the chapters before is now being put into action. Snake is deep inside the halberd, with orders to bring it back into responsible hands. On the way, he encounters familiar faces, and posts up to defend himself, but Lucario senses bigger fish to fry, and tells Snake to get in the mix. Eventually, they break through the army and find Peach and Zelda being used for shadow clones, and after fighting with them for the last time, their frozen states are no more. This part of the cutscene is a nice touch because as far as Snake knows, they're two normal princesses, but Zelda, now transformed into Sheik, has other plans. As she and Peach travel to the landing strip, the inner workings of the Subspace Army is revealed. Endless copies of created entities held against their will. I've never fought this one and it sucks because it freaks me out the most. Makes you wonder why it's here in the first place. Still engaged in warfare, Fox guns for the source, unknowingly putting Peach in danger. Sheik leaps to protect her, ejecting Fox out of his seat. The two fight, but Peach thinks this could be resolved by a more peaceful means. The Snake team made it to the bridge and evicted the crew of Game & Watches. Game & Watches of which all melded into our next boss, Duan. Two twin mechs each focused on different ranges of combat. Thanks to Fox's speed, Sheik's strength, and Peach's empathy, the Duan disintegrates and Game & Watch is back to normal. With Meta Knight finally back in control of the halberd, things are looking up. Samus and Pikachu infiltrate the factory, weapons at the ready, but soon lower their guard as the minister stands before them remorseful, before the DK bunch drops in. Acknowledging that the plan might be in shambles, Ganondorf calls for a Hail Mary detonation. The minister tries to get the Robs to realize their fate, but Ganondorf activates an override code, forcing the Robs to ignore the minister's plea, so the minister takes drastic measures, only to be attacked by the ones he wanted to save. Ganondorf issues one final wave, as the bunch tries to delay the inevitable. The ancient minister was revealed to be a Rob himself, who implements his own override code. Alas, the code failed, so Cap calls in the Falcon Flyer and rallies the bunch together to retreat before it's too late. Only problem is that Ridley isn't done yet. We make it out by the skin of our teeth, and on the way back to shore, we meet up with the rest of our heroes. Oh yeah, it's all coming together. Now we take this to the source's source. The halberd is full speed ahead, taking hit after hit. It holds up well, but Ganondorf's guns land a clean shot through the center, grounding the halberd for good. The Falcon Flyer, the gunship, the Dolphin, the R-Wing, all being a distraction for Kirby's out-of-nowhere Dragoon attack, with the Brawl theme roaring again? Chills. Every time. The gang's all here. Further down into Subspace, Ganondorf shows his true colors, looking to take the credit for himself. But there's a catch. It turns out that the man pulling the strings of the man pulling the strings is getting his own strings pulled, figuratively and literally, by the real big bad, Taboo, betraying them both. Our heroes arrive shortly after, only to meet their end. Taboo, with a wave of his wings, turned the entire roster into trophies, and hides himself behind the world in his hands. However, the battle's not over yet. DDD's pins were actually fail-safes that unfreeze those stuck in a trophy state. He was a step ahead of Ganon and the rest, even sacrificing his own safety to protect Zelda, and it's paying off. Luigi and Ness are brought back to play their part, and after unlocking DDD, he leads them to help the others. We bounce around Subspace, picking up fighters along the way. Bowser's still angry, but DDD tries to get him to focus on what's important. As this is going on, the failsafe pays off again, reviving Kirby. Sakurai, your bias is showing, allowing him to join in on the team-wide res. Kirby makes it to the end witnessing Bowser's venting process and is greeted by a relieved DDD, taking him towards our next target. Zelda and Link, against their better judgment, revive Ganon and put him to work. And thus, the Great Maze begins. All of our enemies, mini-bosses, actual bosses, and level archetypes have come together to form one final mega web, complete with a map and endgame shadow radar. Every boss and fighter's shadow must be fought before moving on to the final battle, so it's time to put those backtracking skills to good use. Once every trophy is accounted for, the entrance to Taboo is opened. He hopes to close it again with his wing attack. There's no failsafe in sight. The second chance already looks squandered. Throughout the course of my first time playing through this story, I thought that Sakurai either forgot about him or didn't have enough time to put him in the story. But the way I lost my mind when I saw that the one character to save these pioneers of the gaming medium from total ruin was Sonic the fucking Hedgehog, you bet your ass I picked him to fight first. This fight gives you the choice to recruit 6 fighters, and by golly do you need every single one of them. Taboo is as cheap as it gets. A giant health bar, constant teleports, uncounterable and unair dodgeable stage-wide one-shotting attacks, moves that rack up ridiculous amounts of damage. I mean, just look at this. None of this makes any sense. Like, who are you? Who hurt you? I've played through this emissary many times, so I got him first try, but damn did I struggle with this back in the day. Ike's super armor is no joke. Is that it? Did I get him? Taboo and his subspace are no more. All the damage dealt has been undone, and the trophy world is safe to prosper once again. Brawl was already shaping up to be great, but the emissary is what pushed it over the edge. No, it's not a dense story with a heavily layered plot line, and I wish that it lasted a bit longer so that we could see more interactions and payoffs, like giving Link and Yoshi and Marth, Ike, and Meta Knight more time to further flesh out their dynamics, Lucas reuniting with Ness, the first 4 meeting again after being split since the beginning, and the countless ideas for references and gags that could have been delivered between certain characters, and it definitely deserved a much more satisfying ending than what we got. But aside from all that, there was plenty of good to expand upon, like the pacing of the story, a gradual progression from scuffles and battles to full-on war to an interdimensional fight for humanity, Lucas overcoming his fear ready to sacrifice himself for Pokémon Trainer, Fox and Falco being supportive big brothers to an abandoned Kong Jr., DDD giving up his freedom to protect those who would later be the ones to save the roster, the Rob twist, Lucario having a peacemaking sensei demeanor, Peach also having a peacemaking demeanor but more in the pure and naive sense, literally anything Captain Falcon does, the endgame moment, Sonic's surprise attack. The story flies by, but there's so much to praise in between. Could you imagine if they continued with this, but with ample time to write a strong story with character progression and elevations to the beat-em-up aspect? There's no telling how revolutionary it would have been to have so many first and third party icons fight, interact, and team up to save the world. Yep, and there won't be for as long as we live. Due to Sakurai frowning upon the uploading of his Subspace cutscenes to YouTube, Smash 4 never got a story mode. As much as I would like to express how baffling that was, that's neither here nor there. Ultimate gave us a bit of hope, but it was taken away in an instant when Sakurai said that it was more about fun than story. Yeah, because the emissary was so great because of its great maze shadow fights and only its great maze shadow fights. Totally had nothing to do with the story. Nope, not at all. Needless to say, World of Light was a bloated, boring mishmash of what could have just been its own minigame mode. Oh wait, it was. And add the fact that all signs point to Ultimate being the last of the series, the emissary will be the one and only example of how far Smash's story could have gone. And having to live in the timeline where we don't even get to see a glimpse of that future will forever be a damn shame. Super Smash Bros. Brawl has caught a lot of flack at its birth, and it looked to become a huge dent in Sakurai's reputation. But luckily, in spite of all the community's criticisms, whether valid or not, years after its release, the game was given a second chance by the masses. Yeah, players will always have their issues and grumbles, and at the end of the day, Brawl will have to live with its blemishes and shortcomings, but nothing beats the heart and passion it exudes. Over time, the community has been slowly welcoming it back with open arms. The wide array of retrospects and revisionist posts from all over the internet had a lot of people consider giving the game another shot, or at least soften their stance against it. And after going back through it all myself, my opinion on it still hasn't changed. For better or worse, Brawl instilled an itch in me that can't be scratched by other games, including those in the series itself. I can't explain it, but it has an essence none can replicate. No matter how many times I see the start screen, no matter how many hours I throw into it, I still find things to do. I still find reasons to play. Whenever I hear the term Smash Brothers, this is the game that exemplifies that title for me. Maybe it's because of the many memories I made playing with my siblings and lost childhood friends. Maybe it's because of the long history it wrote for me and the path it set for what came next. How much it and the community shaped me going forward. Daisy! How long it stood beside me whenever I had time to kill or ideas to express. How it helped me escape on many rainy days and dark nights. How today, it became a way for me to feel like a kid again. My time machine back to the way it was. My home, away from home.